ABC News Political Director Rick Klein joins us now for more. As we've been talking, Rick, almost every day, the pandemic driving the campaign, it seems. Positivity rates are increasing in 11 of the 13 battleground states right now, including Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Arizona. So given that they're hitting those states, what are they telling voters there about this new surge?
Well, it tells you, as President Trump says, he is sick of talking about COVID. It's the voters themselves who are living it. And we have seen a disconnect between the president's rhetoric and his actions, frankly, and the way people have experienced this pandemic. Many of these states have mandates around masks. In almost every state, you still have disruptions to daily life. So that the president to say that we're rounding the corner, that we're solving this, it ignores the outbreak in his own White House, and it ignores the reality on the ground. And that's what's defined this election. It's been a through line for months now, Terry. The difference between the way people perceive the president's leadership around COVID, what he says about it, versus the reality as it's being lived in these battleground states.
And Rick, what do you make of their strategies right now? Biden's campaigning in Georgia, which hasn't voted Republican in the presidential race since 1992. Meanwhile, Trump is holding rallies in states that he won 4 years ago. What does that tell you about what they are trying to accomplish in this last week?
Well, if President Trump wins the election, you're going to hear a lot about days like today. Vice President Biden trying to expand the map, maybe make a play for some Senate seats by playing in a state that no one ever thought would realistically go for a Democrat this year. They're very confident about this path. Meanwhile, President Trump focused on today, Wisconsin and Michigan, yesterday, Pennsylvania. On one level, you say, well, it's telling that he has to focus on the states that he won 4 years ago. But Democrats have been obsessing about particularly those three upper Midwest states, in particular, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, for 4 years. It has been drilled into their heads. So the idea that President Trump is stomping the pavement and doing as many rallies as he is in those states, and Vice President Biden doing far fewer events and spending a whole day in Georgia a week out. Again, it's a bold, big strategy. It is a risky strategy, but it is a mark of the confidence that the Biden campaign feels a week out.
And Rick, Judge Amy Coney Barrett, now Justice Amy Coney Barrett. When President Trump nominated Judge Barrett, now Justice Barrett, he and Republicans thought this is a winner issue for us. How is it playing out there, do you think?
We just haven't seen it register as a top-line issue among voters in battleground states. It just isn't a top-motivating thing. I think it has helped the president consolidate his base and the case that he's made around the country, but he may have actually endangered the party's Senate prospects in a couple of states. Clearly, the president trying to put an exclamation point on the moment with that extraordinary event last night at the White House, echoes of the super spreader event where she was announced outside at the White House just a few short weeks ago. The president doesn't really want to change the optics of that. He does want to remember that he delivered on his promise of appointing conservative justices to the Supreme Court. No matter what else is said about the Trump presidency, he has remade a third of the Supreme Court in just 4 short years.
And Rick, you know, Biden has avoided completely answering whether he would pack the court if he does win the election. The best he said is that he would tap a bipartisan commission to explore court reform if he wins. Does his ambiguity on this issue of saying whether or not they would expand a court, well, one, what's the chances that they do expand the court if he wins the election? And do you think his ambiguity on this issue will hurt him with voters?
There's no question that it is a purposeful ambiguity. He is not answering a very direct question. And there will be bills introduced in the new Congress. Of course, Biden hopes a Democratic-controlled Congress that he will have to weigh in on. He is trying to punt on the issue by saying that he brings it to a commission. I've heard about a lot of Washington commissions over the years, and you guys have covered these things as well. They rarely actually deliver the results. It's a classic dodge. But in this case, he's going to come under enormous pressure after the election to play by different rules under the argument that Republicans essentially broke the system. That isn't how Joe Biden is wired, but if he wins the election, there'll be a whole lot of Democrats who think that is part of the promise that he has to deliver on.
I just want to quickly follow up on that. How do you prevent that from becoming a slippery slope? We see the voting percentages change. We see the filibuster. They're talking about getting rid of that. We talk about packing the courts. How do you stop that from just changing the system entirely?
Well, Joe Biden hopes that there will be kind of a calming influence that he brings around the entire electorate, Democrats and Republicans together. Now, a lot of progressives will say, good luck with that. That is wishful thinking. That is a bygone era in Washington. But it is essentially what he's campaigning on. The complication, Diane, is, of course, if he wins the election, it won't be entirely what he won on. It will be based on the votes of many young progressives who think far more radical change is in the offing. And it will be up to President Biden under a Democratic-controlled Washington to temper the expectations of of so many in his own party.
And there he is at Warm Springs, Georgia, we're seeing, which was Franklin Roosevelt's retreat. Roosevelt, when he tried to pack the court, got clobbered by public opinion. The country's pretty careful with the Supreme Court. But I want to go back to the coronavirus pandemic, and especially how President Trump seems to be addressing this. The White House this week, the Science Policy Office released a list of accomplishments of the president in his first term in office, and right at the top was ending the COVID-19 pandemic. Given what people are seeing, not just with cases, but with hospitalizations, with what's happening to frontline workers, does that work?
Well, it doesn't match with reality. But where the president hopes that it can match up with the perceptions is that people are tired, they are frustrated, they are probably sick of COVID. Now, he has banked his entire re-election campaign on the idea that he can sell to the American people that we have beaten it, that we're rounding the corner, as he says, the economy is on the mend. That's the issue set that works for him. If he is relitigating the past, if he is confronting the very real situation on the ground in so many of these states, it is so much tougher. And that's where I think you start to see some polling separation with Joe Biden. People really don't trust the president's word on coronavirus overall, and there's a big approval gap on Biden versus Trump on this issue. That's probably the best issue that Biden has to run on, and it's the worst for Trump to have to run on. And we've seen time and again those issues just confront the White House so directly at the White House itself, at the physical building, as well as so many places where the campaign's being waged.
All right, Rick, you talked about COVID fatigue, so let's give people a little break and play a little game of Stump Rick Klein, shall we?
I still love this.
Rick loves this game. All right, question one. When was the last time a Democrat running for president won the state of Georgia? Terry, feel free to steal if you know it.
I think we both know this one, right?
No, you have to go back to Bill Clinton, and it took that three-way race against Ross Perot to make it happen. Bill Clinton, a Southerner. If you look at the map today, it's so different than it used to be. There were so many Southern states that were red and even reliably red not that long ago. So it's striking that just in the course of that one generation, in a couple of presidencies, we've gone from Georgia being blue to deep red to now purple again.
By the way, I did not know that question was coming, and I ad-libbed in earlier that it last happened in 1992. So do I get partial credit for that?
Yeah.
Judges?
Yes, sure.
There we go.
You can have it.
I wanted the ding. All right. Let's see. What election saw the highest voter turnout in history?
I believe the going thinking is the 1960 election had the highest turnout as a voter-eligible population. Did I get that one right?
I'm sorry, that is incorrect. 81.8% of eligible voters took to the polls in 1876 to elect Rutherford B. Hayes over Samuel Tilden. 1876.
Eligible voters, of course, is a very interesting term. A lot fewer people and a lot fewer types of people eligible to vote in 1876.
It's an admirable argument, but the judges are not going to give it to you, Rick Klein. Rick, it's always great to talk to you. Thank you so much for giving us the breakdown, and thanks for being a good sport.
I got two buzzes for one answer. I got to be careful when I try to ad-lib like that. Thanks, guys.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.